Welcome to the happiest edition of Strata Originals, the podcast. We're talking to Scott White, who is the life is too short guy, and he's the happiest guy you'll ever meet. Right, Scott?
I am.
You spent over a decade on Wall Street. You took a chance, became an entrepreneur, and at some point 10 years later, wrote the book Life is Too Short. You've done the Ironman triathlon and 15 marathons. And everyone you meet, you focus on happiness, gratefulness, and positivity. So you're married to your high school sweetheart, which is admirable in this day and age. And together, you're both the two most passionate Rutgers sports fans in the world. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Tell me about the passionate Rutgers sports fans in the world.
It's always something that's interesting for people to latch onto. So my wife and I started dating in high school, and then we went to college together. And when we were in college at Rutgers, we just became sports fans. We became fans of the university, and in the U.S., college sports are a big thing. And to this day, we are season ticket holders for football. We're season ticket holders for men's basketball. We attend some women's basketball games. We attend some wrestling matches. We attend some men's and women's soccer. We attend some lacrosse matches. So we love college sports. We love Rutgers.
Nice, nice. There are those things that bring you together, right?
Exactly. That's a lot of fun. And we live fairly close, which makes it pretty easy too.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your jump from Wall Street to an entrepreneurial role. I want to get right into it because I'm curious. So a decade on Wall Street, kudos, by the way, because my brain doesn't work like that. I admire people's brains who do. Wall Street to entrepreneur, what was that like? What was the thing that made you jump into entrepreneurial life?
I think it's consistent with the theme of the book, and my philosophy is life is too short. It's an opportunity to try something, explore something new. I had spent about 13 years on Wall Street, and then in 2013, I decided to take a chance and left Wall Street and joined someone that had been developing some healthcare oriented real estate assets in the US. And that was 11 years ago. And that was at the time a development company. And today that has evolved to become a publicly traded healthcare oriented real estate company that I'm the chairman and CEO of. And it's been a really fun, exciting, wild adventure.
That's amazing. And so the book came in the 2021, 22.
Yeah, right. So I wrote it in 2022 and it came out early in 2023. So it's been out just over a year now, but I spent most of 2022 writing it.
And so was that because of post-pandemic, or was that just accumulation of things that
Just accumulation of things. So it like everything else in life, things just sort of again, another opportunity. Life's too short. So I'd always wanted to write a book. For many years I talked about it, and I never drove it forward, and I never figured out exactly what I would write about. And then during the pandemic, I was working with a new executive coach. His name is Kevin. And the first session, Kevin and I met, and he asked me a bunch of questions, and I filled out some assessments. And then the second session, he started, and it was a Zoom call like this. I remember this exactly how he said it. He's like, dude, you are Mr. Life is Too Short guy. Like everything's rah-rah, get it done today, super positive. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's right, Kevin, but I never really thought of it through that lens. And then that night I had mentioned to my wife, I'm like, yeah, I met this new executive coach today. He called me Mr. Life is Too Short guy. And she was the one who was like, hey, maybe that's your book. Maybe the book you'd always talked about is Mr. Life is Too Short guy. And, my initial reaction was, that's silly. What would that be about? I have no idea. And then I started thinking about it. This was early in 2021. I started drafting a little bit of an outline, and it died. That was early 2021. I'd say by March, it was like, all right, I don't know where I'm going with this. And she continued to kind of to prod a little bit and say, oh, maybe you could talk about this or whatever. And then early in 2022, I committed to it and spent all of 2022 writing the book and released it early in 2023. And it's been a wild, fun, exciting journey. It really has been life-changing for me. And I believe for people that have either read the book or heard me speak or heard me on podcasts like this.
So what is it why don't you tell us a little bit about the premise of the book?
Sure. So the premise of the book is the interplay or the overlap of gratefulness, happiness, and positivity on the one hand. So put that here against urgency on the other hand. And the idea is live for today, make the most of today, take that chance, get it done, enjoy life. And the book walks through a journey with me and with others where I lay out the 10 principles that I call Litzig. Life is too short, guy, Litsg, Litzig, and there are 10 principles of Litzig. And each chapter illustrates the principle, gives examples of how you would implement this in your own life, and then tells stories either from my life and my experiences, or even more interestingly, the experiences of other people that have had major epiphanies, aha moments, major setbacks, catastrophic injuries, death of a loved one, overcoming alcoholism, suicide attempt, all these things that people face. And my goal in telling these stories, and they're stories of people that have overcome them, is for the reader to have that aha moment today. And again, like I said, it's the intersection of happiness, gratefulness, and positivity against urgency. Don't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. And we hear that and we smile, like, yeah, I got it, I got it. But I want people to really live it. I want people to believe it. I want people to realize today's the best day. Make the most of it. Go out and make every day the best day ever.
So you talk about attitude is everything and the power of positivity. What was that realization? What story do you have around that the power of positivity got you where you needed to go?
So there are a bunch of stories I tell in the book. I think it is something that I learned over the course of my life. There wasn't one salient moment in the book. I talk about first. I tell a story of someone else. I tell a story of a football player, a college football player, and I was actually at the game. Eric is his name, and we tell the story about Eric in the book, where it was probably, I guess, about 12 years ago, and I'm there with my family. It's a college football game. It's the fourth quarter, and there's a kickoff, and then the returning team is running up the far side of the field, and Eric collides with the person carrying the football, and the two players go down, and the medics come on, and you see something's not right. This is really lasting a long time. And Eric's put on a backboard. Backboard goes on the cart. The cart is wheeled out of the stadium. And as Eric says, that began the journey of the next phase of his life. And today, Eric is completely paralyzed from his neck down 12 years later. And as I tell Eric's story, Eric is an entrepreneur. He has his own coffee house and coffee brand. He has his own bourbon brand. He's written a book, has his own clothesline. He is a athletic broadcaster. You could hear him calling football games on the radio. He's done a couple of other things that I've forgotten, and he talks about, and I share this perspective in terms of, he said that he remembers being there the night after the injury, laying in his bed, and he hears the doctors talking to his mother in the other room saying, Eric's in a precarious position right now, and Eric will never walk again. He will never eat solid foods again. He'll never breathe again on his own. In fact, we're hopeful that he makes it through the night. And Eric remembers his mother hearing that, and here he is years later, like I said, with a broad range of business interests, and there's no doubt. Look, he needs help to accomplish everything. And he said to me, he's like, Scott, I need help to get dressed and to get out of bed and to get shoe places and to respond to emails and everything like that. And you look at me and all that I've done and all that I've accomplished. And I say to people, why not? Why can't you do this? It's the power of positivity, the power of attitude. And his smile is one of the stories I really like to talk about when I think about attitude is everything, the power of positivity.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. And one of the other main points in your philosophy is that funny things are everywhere.
I think it's really important to laugh every day. I think it's important to take yourself and the world around you less seriously. Too many people get caught up in the seriousness of no matter. And I repeat that 3 times for emphasis, where you are, what's going on. There is a funny perspective. And people tell me, oh, come on. there's certain situations. And in the book, I tell the story of Greg, and I went to high school with Greg. So I've known Greg, most of my life. And Greg tells a story about his daughter. And when Greg's daughter was about 3 years old, he noticed her, he said, slurring her words a little bit, which, I think he referred to it as if she drank a little bit of wine and bumping into things. And they went to various specialists and couldn't quite figure it out until one specialist said, I'm going to reserve judgment until I want I want to send you for some tests, and I'm not going to refer you to my wife yet. And Greg said, "Oh, what does your wife do?" And he said, "My wife's a pediatric oncologist." And unfortunately, his daughter went for some tests, and they determined she had a massive brain tumor. That she was a survivor, and I say survivor because she lived 5 years and one day beyond that diagnosis. She died at 8 years old. And Greg tells the story, and it's a really compelling story about how they used humor along the journey to cope, to laugh at the silliest things, her hair falling out, her waking up and not dressed, her the nurses that are taking care of her, and finding, this is a 5, 6, 7-year-old, finding humor and laughing. And I tell my own story of, I lost my father about 17 years ago, and it is certainly one of the pillars that has set me on this path and this philosophy. And I talk about how at his funeral, and you want to talk about one of the toughest days of your life, the day you bury a parent, I am looking over the casket, and the guests are in another room. This is just the immediate family, myself, my brother, our spouses, a couple of people. I'm looking down at my father, and literally my phone rings. Right? My phone rings, and you think about what an awkward time this is, one of the worst moments in your life, and how some people might react with shock, might react with disgust. He couldn't shut his phone off, whatever. I literally reached in my pocket. I'm looking down at my father, and I answer the phone just like this. I'm like, "Hey, Dad, what are you up to?" And everyone in the room sort of paused for a second. They didn't know how to react, and then just burst out laughing. Yeah. And that's the power of funny things are everywhere. I'm sorry. The principle is funny things are everywhere. Wherever you are, bring humor, laugh at yourself, laugh at the world around you. Find reasons to laugh every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I had a very similar situation at my father's funeral too. It must maybe something to do with Dad's.
I guess.
Yeah, we realized we forgot to put his shoes on, and he would have been very upset. So we took our shoes off. But for some reason, because my dad was a jokester, that's why I love what you just said. My dad would have been upset if people had have been really sad at his,
right,
speaking about him. And so I was talking a little bit about that. I said, my dad is such a jokester. And at that moment, this skirt that I was wearing that fit properly, I felt like, boom, it was down around my ankles. And thank goodness the podium was in front of me, and I had on a longish jacket. But the priest, who was behind me and saw what was going on, walks in front of me and puts his arms up like that. So his robe was covering me as I hiked my skirt back up. And not everybody saw what happened, but certainly the first 5 rows on each side did. And so I said, see what I mean? My dad thought that was funny. And
funny things are everywhere.
Everybody burst out laughing. So
I love it.
I appreciate what happened in the story that you told in the book, because it's a time when people probably think it's most inappropriate.
Exactly.
It's probably the most appropriate time, because people need something to break that stress and realize you're celebrating someone's life.
That's it. And look, you could take that, extract that principle and bring it into boardrooms. You could bring it into negotiations. You could bring it into courtrooms, which tend to be stressful places, right? There, you could find humor everywhere. And that's my whole point, is funny things are everywhere. Laugh every day. It breaks down barriers. It makes you feel better. It makes people around you feel better. I think it's a really important principle.
I would be curious to see how that would roll out in a courtroom, though.
There's always opportunities to laugh. There's always opportunities to laugh.
So you're the you're the Mr. Take a chance and get it done, because you have changed careers and, taken a chance on the book. And where does that philosophy come from? Because not everybody is built, we might say take a chance, but some people might say take a risk.
Yeah, so I tell people to redefine and think about risk and fear and think about them as opportunities as opposed to negatives. And look, everyone has different risk tolerance. In this section in particular, I talk about a book that was written by an Australian palliative care nurse called The Five Regrets of the Dying. And, people think about, and I often ask people, what do you think the biggest regret people have on their deathbed? And that's the point of the book. And, invariably people think that the regrets are something they did stupid or something that, they wish they had not done this, or they regret having done that. The reality is the biggest regret people have on their deathbeds is the regret of what they didn't do. Didn't do. And so many times in life, people look back, and not necessarily just in their deathbeds, but at various times throughout various stages of their life, and they're like, when I was younger, I wish I X, or when my kids are around, I wish I Y, or when I became an empty nester, I wish I Z, whatever. I tell people, all right, do it today. Take a chance. Not everything's going to work out. That's fine. And by the way, this isn't just a business principle. This is take a chance, get it done today in social settings, with hobbies, with friends, with whatever it is that you think you want to accomplish, you want to experience, but you're afraid. You're like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? You got to stop with that attitude and take that chance. And as you said, I've changed careers a couple of times now. I wrote the book, which was taking a chance. I run and train a lot and do different races. And, I'm always looking for a new challenge. I'm always looking for an opportunity to take a chance and get it done today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, I think that some people, many are, it's fear-based, fear of
No
the,
doubt.
right?
No doubt. And people give too much credence to the fear. They think about worst case scenario instead of most likely scenario. I tell people, what's the worst thing that can happen, and how bad actually is that? So you leave this job to try another job, it doesn't pan out. You've tried something new, you've met new people, you've learned along the way, fine, you move on to something else. We overemphasize the downside instead of thinking about the upside, and we spend too much time dwelling on what could go wrong instead of what could go right.
And do you think that happens more as we get older?
That's an interesting question. I think that's person specific, because I think as you get older, so to a certain degree, you could argue you're more set in your ways, right? You're in a comfort zone, and why now? This is good enough. The other side is, I think as we age, we mature, we change our perspective, we let go of things that earlier in life, a risk is what will other people think, right? So you're younger in life, especially when you're, high school, college, 20s, you're like, if I try this job or I try this hobby and it doesn't pan out, what will other people think? I think, certainly I observe myself and my peer group, as we age, we don't care as much about what other people think. And I tell people all along the way, who cares? Who cares what other people think? Worry about yourself, worry about what you think, take that chance, get it done today. And don't be among those people on their deathbeds that regret the career they didn't try, the hobby they didn't try, the relationship they didn't try, the thing they didn't fix. Don't be one of those people. Go out today and take that chance.
When you go out and speak, do you speak to senior management teams? Is it individuals who come and listen to you speak, or organizations, industries? And what do you hope people will take away from that? Well,
the principles are very broadly applicable. So I do speak to companies and management teams. I do speak at conferences. I do speak at schools. Because when you think about these principles that we're talking about, this is equally applicable to someone in high school as it is to somebody that's retiring. It's equally applicable to somebody that's getting married and someone that's dealing with the death of a loved one. So they're very broad principles. And I have a very simple goal when I speak to people, even right now, as your listeners are watching this, is if everyone could take away one small tool and make one small change, the world would be such a better place. I'm on this mission to make the world happier, one smile at a time. And it takes so little. Like if one person, and I'm sure you have so many listeners that are watching this now, if one person just thinks for a minute and smiles, like literally smiles, if one person just thinks for a minute and calls a friend that yeah, I've been thinking about it, but then Scott, prodded them. You know what? I'm going to call that friend today. I'm going to check in. If just one person tries to laugh a little bit extra today, wow, it's such a better world that we live in. And that's my mission. I really want to have a happier, more positive world. I want to get away from the constant negativity and grind of what's wrong.
Agree 100%, which is why we do what we do, which is to inspire leaders and entrepreneurs.
No doubt.
To get out there and share their uniqueness with everybody. And we're kind of saying the same thing, but coming at it from a different way.
That's right.
And so the goal when you wrote the book was to, even to make one person happier, sort of one smile at a time. But when you speak to people, you take them through specific, your 10 principles.
Yep.
And do people interact? I know you have a lot of testimonials, and everybody should go buy the book and book you to speak, because what an amazing experience, even in itself. But, part of your philosophy is you only have so many minutes.
Yep.
Like, don't waste a minute, like start right this minute. And,
correct.
I love you talking directly to the audience and saying, smile, make this minute a happy minute. And then the next one, because once you make the first one happy, it's easier to make the second one happy, right? And again, even if you just affect one person, which I'm sure you affect more. But so what is your goal for the book and for your speaking? Is it because, you're very busy, you have a publicly run company, and you have a lot of things on the go. Is there a book too? Is there, what are you thinking on?
Look, absolutely. Absolutely. I have so many more chapters of my story to write. There'll be more books. There'll be more speaking. There'll be more opportunities to make the world better, to have a positive impact on people's lives. I really want your listeners today to feel like they've taken away something positive, even a small tool, right? So one of the things I spend a lot of time emphasizing about this book, about this philosophy, and about what I'm trying to accomplish is it's not rocket science, right? So you're not going to listen to this or read the book and be like, wow, I had no idea. This is unbelievable. Instead, the reaction I truly want is, oh, this is so easy. This is so obvious. All right, then do it. Then do it. Spend more time smiling. Spend more time thinking about how you're using your minutes. Take more chances. Start new hobbies and careers. Find your passion and chase it. Spend more time with friends and family. We didn't talk about one of the principles is can't make it alone. And I spent a lot of time talking about that. How many people proactively think about the time they're spending with others as opposed to, oh, I got more work to do. I want to do this or I want to do that. Build your social network. There's so many small nuggets that you could take away that I only need you to grab onto one or two, and you will have a happier life. You will spread that passion to other people, and there's a ripple effect, right? You smile, the person who sees you smile, they go home and smile, and it really has a positive impact on the people around us. I will tell you that the most amazing part of this journey for me has been the feedback I get later. Someone listening to this, I'm 100% sure, will send me an email or will send me a note through LinkedIn or Facebook or something over the next couple of months that said, and these are real examples, I heard you, and that day I booked a flight to go see my mom who I hadn't seen in years. I heard you, and I joined the church choir because I was like, why not? I heard you, and I started writing a screenplay because I'd been thinking about it forever, and you motivated and inspired me to do that. I got a call from somebody shortly after the book came out, probably about this time last year, who said I was just standing in line. I remember him saying specifically, ordering my green tea or green smoothie or something, and I started to cry. And I started to cry because I started reading your book last night, and you start by telling the story of when you were 10 years old, your father had a heart attack, and that's how I opened the book. And I'm the father of a single father of a 10-year-old son right now. And I realized, wow, what would happen? I literally am just standing here crying, and I've only read the first chapter. That's what's inspiring and motivating me. That's what's driving me. And that is the impact that I hope to continue to have on the world.
Yeah. And so as a step one, highly encourage people to go get the book. As a step two, if you're in a position to hire you or go see you speak, then do that. But I'm curious on book two, are there many more places to take the happiness?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, there's, you know, I'd like to potentially drive it more toward business specific. You know, the first book is very broad by design. I went out of my way and worked really hard to make sure, here's what it's not. And I'm proud that it's not. It's not an academic book. So this isn't something you're going to read 2 or 3 pages and fall asleep on all the academic literature and the empirical evidence, because that does no one. There's a handful of people that enjoy reading that, but most of the world doesn't, let's be honest. It's also not a business specific book. The principles are very business applicable, and I bring them into the companies that I work with, but this isn't reading a business case study. So I do think that there's an opportunity to potentially write another book that might be more business specific and drive these principles and how you bring them into the workplace. We'll see. Again, I have many more chapters to write in my life, many more stories to share. I have a weekly newsletter, or actually every other week I send out a newsletter where I share these tidbits. So if anyone wants to hop on my newsletter, they can go to my website, lifeistooshortguy.com, lifeistooshortguy.com, and register for the newsletter.
And we can put that in the description
Wonderful.
down there.
Perfect.
So really, I think overall, the feeling that I get is really sort of that first point that you said about, it's about being happy, but it's about the positive energy that you put out when you're happy and smiling.
That's right.
That affects people, right?
No question. Think about a world where more people walked around smiling, more people had a positive lens and positive perspective, more people laughed every day, more people chased their passions and took chances. Wouldn't that be an amazing world? An amazing world?
Absolutely would be. Would be. But there are people, though. Have you come across anyone who enjoys the drama enjoys the drama and unhappiness of it all, like the negative people? Have you come across somebody like that it doesn't matter what you say to them, they'll find the negative?
Oh, no doubt. But what I would say is, I don't know if they truly enjoy it. You asked the question, do they enjoy that negative lens? I'm not sure. I really, it's hard for me to answer that question, but there's no doubt there are many, many, many people that have such a negative lens, and that's fine. I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. I don't want to do new things, and that's fine. What I say to those people is, I share a broad series of 10 principles. Not all make sense for you. Maybe you are fine not taking chances, and maybe you are fine with a negative lens, and that's fine. I'm not going to change everybody, but I look at some of the other principles and I say, well, one of the other principles is learn something new every day. So with your negative lens and with your I'm comfortable where I'm at, might you consider learning something new today? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I would say to them, what about can't make it alone? Fine, you are generally a negative person. And honestly, I think it's harder to attract people to spend time with as a negative person. But look, there are other negative people out there. I would say spend some time in the principle of can't make it alone. Figure out how to join organizations, clubs, reach out, build a social network. Can't make it alone is a really powerful principle. It's the 9th of the 10 principles. And I think it has even for the most negative person, has a positive impact.
What's the 10th principle?
10th principle is live today, don't wait for tomorrow. It ties very much to minutes matter, but it really is live in the moment today. Forget about the past. Don't necessarily plan everything in the future. Live right now. Like, I'm enjoying our session together, talking right now. I'm energized. I'm not thinking about where I'm going next, nor am I worried about where I was before. So live in the present. Don't wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that. So I think it would be amazing if you could talk to high school students and college students to, at a time when probably, they have a lot of hormones happening and they're kind of looking for that life thing to grab onto. And I find that especially the message about you don't go it alone, or, like have a network, don't be alone. When was the last time I saw my friends? So many of the younger generations get their friendship online now through TikTok, through Instagram, through Facebook. Like that's their social network. So I think it's really about the value of face-to-face, which has never been more clear since post-pandemic, and so many people working remotely from home and isolated. That message of face-to-face is so important. Even if you have social networks where you're connecting digitally, it's not the same as being and exchanging energy.
Look, I think the principles are very applicable to high school students, to college students, not just the can't make it alone, but find your passion, learn, learn, learn. Funny things are everywhere. Choose your attitude and own it. Attitude is everything. I mean, these are great principles for people at those inflection points in their life, like I said before, of high school, of college, I mean, even some of these principles, although I think they'd have to be, and I've done this actually, I've spoken in elementary schools where you sort of, there are things you have to deliver differently so that the recipient can get the message. But the principles are ubiquitous, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to find funny things everywhere, right? I mean, it's hard to argue with that, and there's not a doubt in my mind that people at those highly developmental and highly malleable stages of high school and college would really benefit from either reading the book or hearing me speak.
Yeah, I agree. And it's been amazing. I'd like to end with a question. It's kind of an icebreaker question, but I'm curious what your answer would be. So I'm going to ask it. And I recognize we have not talked. You're not prepared for this question.
All right. Pressure's on.
No, it's super easy. It's just a fun one. Okay, so you have your own late night happy talk show.
Okay.
You can have anybody, past, present, dead, alive, because this is make believe. Who would you have as your first guest?
Well, I'm not sure that the audience would really care, but if there's somebody I wish I could talk to again and spend some more time with, it'd be either my parents. Both my parents are deceased, and they had such a big influence and impact on my life and things I talk about in the book, and having them as a guest back to walk through the book, the principles, and get their take on it would be amazing. I don't know if the audience would care, but I would.
No, and that's what it's all about, right? That most important person or thing. Like some people, actually, I've had some interesting answers. Some people say God. Is there life after death, God? Like, answer these questions for everybody. Some people have said George Washington. Some people, like, history buffs are like, oh, that's who my first guest would be. And then you'd be surprised at the number of people who would like to get a parent back, or both, one or both. And I think it just really shows the value of family. So
no doubt. And the last principle: live today, don't wait for tomorrow. Nothing's guaranteed. What you have today could be gone in a heartbeat. Make the most of it. Enjoy it. Embrace it.
And always about that minute. Think about it in minutes, right? Because, and not to be, negative or scary about anything, but we never know when it's our last minute with someone. So make it a good one always.
That's it. 100% agreed. Minutes matter. One of the core principles I talk about in the book.
Amazing. So get the book, go to Scott's website, get on his newsletter, think about him speaking, and thank you so much for being with us today. And we will be in touch. And certainly, I hope that you'll have people following you, signing up for your newsletter, and much success with this book, your speaking, and the next ones to come.
Thank you so much. It's really been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much.